2002 Nissan Xterra replacing alternator. If you're lucky, you can get one at a auto wrecker for 25 something bucks. They didn't have any, so I had to pay 85 for this. Actually 100. Take your old one back and you get 15 bucks back. I can't remember, recore charge or whatever it's called. Alternator is located, where the hell is it? On driver's side, down there. So take it out from below. Here's the view from below. Oil pan, oil filter, and alternator. First you got to disconnect the battery. So whatever's easier. I don't know what's recommended, negative or positive. That's negative, that's positive. I think positive is recommended, and that's what I'll do. Yours might be different, but it's a 13mm socket for this. Battery disconnected. Okay, to take this one off on my thumb here, it's a 12mm socket. There, that's off. Okay, make sure you remember where that bolt goes, of course. On the back, maybe you can just see on the back and bottom of the alternator, disconnect that wire in the center of the screen. Of course this thing won't focus, right? But center of the screen is bolt right there. Disconnect the wire that goes to that. And it's a 10mm socket. And this one you could probably put the bolt back in so you don't lose it. Here's the 10mm one I just took out. No, the other one. 10mm one is there. Okay, this is the one I got to replace. Just to show you. The other old one is still in there. But you got to take this pivot, like a pivot bolt, out of here. Here's the front of the engine. Got to get this bolt out. Okay, you need a 12mm socket and an extension, and you can get loose that way. On the back, gotta disconnect that, and it's, can't see if I can see it. I partially took it off, that boot. Gotta get that off of there. There in the middle of the screen, there's the boot. And disconnect that bolt there. Boot leads to some kind of wire connection or something. But actually before that, that other bolt, that swivel bolt kind of thing, it's not a bolt going through, it looks like. But the front one I removed. The back one is my fingers pointing to it. There's that boot I was talking about, right there. And there's that other end of that, the other bolt, end of my finger. Reach it from the top or the bottom, I'm not sure yet. Okay, you can reach it from the bottom without the extension. And I think it's 12mm or whatever that was for that last bolt in the front, that swivel bolt, so I said it was. Same socket size, I think 12. So I'll loosen that off. So, it goes in there. I think what it is probably a tube. Goes through here that these thread into. I don't have the manual, so I'm winging this. But anyways. See, now that those two bolts are out, but not that middle tube, if I'm suspecting that's in there. But it swivels, and the belt is still on. So when you take it out, you can loosen it that way, I guess. Take the belt off. Yeah, I'll take it off right now. Oh, you gotta be careful you don't come off the other. It doesn't come off the other wheels or anything. I guess both ends of the belt come off the engine crank, so maybe I will take it off right now. Let it hang there. So I think there's two more wires, that boot wire and another little wire up there to remove so far. Oh, there's the boot. Last two things to remove, I believe, other than that tube in the middle thing, is that boot and that bolt connection, wire connection there. And this is not another, well, it's another wire, but it's a plug. Like this. Plugs into there. The red one there. Okay, swiveling it back and forth after you get those two bolts out, it should come out. Now for that plug that I was talking about, and that boot wire that it's hanging from, and that's it, I believe, for getting that out of there. I hope it comes out of there. Hope there's enough space with this bar in the way and this bracket. Get that bolt off. On the boot wire, it's a 12mm. That's loosening that bolt on that boot, under that boot. That bolt on the boot, under the boot, is already on there. I'll just put this other one on there for now, in case I lose it. Won't need it though. Eventually, when you get the bolt off, the wire under the boot pops off of that. Now, to get that plug out of there, I'm not sure how to do it yet. Okay, the alternator's hanging there by that plug wire, and I don't think I'm going to get the alternator out at all unless I take this bracket off, and I think the bracket's held on by that one bolt in the middle of the screen. So, two things I got to do: get that plug out and get that bracket off. Bracket is a 12mm socket. Okay, yeah, it's one bolt, but it's a long ass bolt. I don't know why so long. There's the bracket dangling. And I'll put that bolt back in there so I know where it goes. There's the plug. Last thing. I'm thinking the screwdriver in there on the center of the screen, that stud there, to the left of it. Well, somewhere I think you put a screwdriver in there and undo that snap thing, and then the plug will come out. We'll see. Only got two hands. Finally got that plug out of the alternator. I don't know how you're supposed to do it, it's pretty cramped, but you're supposed to get a screwdriver in there somehow and pry it toward the plug, because this little ridge here is holding it in there. That might be the hardest part of getting this out. That little plug or clip, whatever, goes in there. That's where you're supposed to pry it. See those ridges? You're supposed to pry it that way, and it comes out. Finally, I got it out. New one, or a newer one, like I did. Make sure you get these numbers. Make sure it fits. Make sure you get the right one. And there's the old one. And a new one. I don't know what the 028 and the 186 means, but 12 volts, 80 amps. Yeah, just making sure I got the right bolts there. That one goes there with a little taper on the end is that one, and no taper is that one. And as usually the case in replacing parts, do it in reverse. I put the plug back on. Now for that boot thing and that one. The alternator is on. Everything is tight. Like I said before, to the back and front pivot bolts first, then get all your plugs on. And while it's still pivotable, actually don't tighten up the pivot bolts. So it's still pivotable. You can move it back and forth and get this belt tight. Put this bracket on. Don't tighten that one up. And here's the tricky part, you have to pull it tight to get the belt tight, so you can thread in that bolt. I guess this is a tensioner thing. There's a slot on this bracket that the alternator pivots within, and you gotta pull it as tight as you can to get this belt on, and hopefully you'll be able to thread in that bolt into the alternator through that slot on the bracket. And if you have any trouble, I think what you do is you loosen this up a bit, and well, I didn't have to loosen it up, I managed to get it on. And then when that's done, you tighten up that bracket bolt, and it's done. Say to test an alternator. To test an alternator, start up the vehicle, then disconnect the battery, and if it still runs, your alternator is good. So I'm going to try that. And fortunately it works. So test drive it and see what happens.